Thank you.
Danny Kruger.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Deputy Speaker. I've enjoyed a lot of the speeches this afternoon, not the last one. I'm not sure that quite falls into the definition of members spending a reasonable amount of time on their own constituents' priorities. But there we are. But can I start by paying tribute to the speech made in last week's debate by my honourable friend, the member for Newcastle-under-Lyme. He spoke about friendship, the value and the advantage of friendship in this place, but also the downside of friendships and relationships which are just too cosy. I wasn't able to join the early debate about the COVID contract, so I might just quickly mention, Mr. Deputy Speaker, we were in a deep national crisis at that time, caused by a model of global supply and distribution that is deeply insecure. And to suggest that we could have afforded a leisurely, open procurement process was absurd. The whole country, including members opposite, were clamouring for action, and businesses stepped forward. And it's quite wrong to infer that the whole country or the government and all the hundreds of civil servants who were involved in the award of those contracts is corrupt. It's quite wrong to suggest that. But all that said, we do need to clean up the relationship between business and politics. And I'll say another word about that in a moment. But this brings me to this motion and to the issue of standards in the wake of the Owen Paterson business. And with reference to friendship, then, I should declare this interest, that Owen is my friend. I also knew his wife Rose, and they hosted me at their house some years ago. So, amid the deluge of obloquy which Mr. Paterson has stood under in recent weeks, I will say that I think he did the state good service when he was in this place, in government and on the backbenches. But this is where I need to act as a friend should, and also as an MP should, who puts the national interest ahead of friendship. Mr. Paterson will not accept that he did anything wrong because he knows himself to have acted with the national interest in mind. And to him, that motivation, that sense of personal honour, is sufficient. But the fact is, our motivation is not so clear-cut as this. We are all human, and we all have motivations that do us credit and motivations that don't. And the fact is that we can't ourselves disentangle our honourable and our dishonourable motivations, especially when money is involved, and money is utterly corrupting. And this issue is as old as Parliament itself. There was an entertaining Edmund Burke quote-off earlier. It was, of course, Edmund Burke, actually after he'd lost his seat, because he didn't do what his constituents wanted him to, and he was sitting for a pocket borough. But it was then that he introduced reforms to clean up politics and get the influence of the Crown out of this place, and William Pitt, who implemented them. So it is Conservatives who have a good record on cleaning up politics. But in our time, we need to look again at the role that money plays in politics. And it's not just about MPs. And I echo the point made by my friend, the member for the Isle of Wight. I am uncomfortable that my party takes money from certain businesses, particularly property developers. Not because there's direct corruption, but because it makes it harder for us to treat those companies as we should, as independent stakeholders, that in many cases don't have the interests of our communities at heart. I find it uncomfortable that the party opposite takes so much money from trade unions. Again, because it means they're not independent of an organisation that wants substantial changes to policy. And that is why we need clear rules for members. So I welcome the proposal by the Prime Minister, which seems similar to that proposed by the party opposite, both based on the Standards Committee report from 2018. Firstly, to ensure that MPs devote their time to their constituents, and secondly, to stop political lobbying. I also think the Prime Minister is right in arguing for a fairer system for investigating claims of wrongdoing by members. It wasn't right that Mr. Paterson had no opportunity to call witnesses for examination and no right of appeal against the committee's decision. So we do need some reform to the rules, but we should approach this very carefully, and particularly about the point about how to define reasonable time that members spend on other interests. We must take steps to restore trust in this place. The party opposite is right in that, but not in this highly political and partisan effort to twist the knife with this particular amendment that they're making. We must be very deliberate and very careful in the way we go about it. Thank you.